You're listening to the Pull List Podcast with Chris Poirier and Hector Murai, a bi-weekly show about how comics, pop culture, and faith affect culture at large. This is part of the Love Thy Nerd podcast network.
Better put the word out. Get ready for the nerd out.
Greetings, comic book nerds, and welcome to episode 11 of the Pull List Podcast. With me, as always, is the one and only Hector. Say hello to the lovely people, Hector.
Greetings, lovely people.
That
I'm
he
Hector.
didn't say hello, but that was pretty good.
Hi.
He is Hector, and
I'm the Silent Bob of our duo.
he talks a lot for Silent Bob, but it's a lot of fun. So today, Hector and I will cover what's happening in the world of comics, what's in our polls for this week, and also give you a little bit of a sneak preview of a little movie called Captain Marvel that has graced the screens literally within the last 24 hours of our recording. But hopefully all of you have run out this weekend and already seen this wonderful movie by the time you get to hear this in your ear holes. But no spoilers. We're going to be really fair. So if you didn't make it over the weekend, then hopefully we'll have talked you into it by the end of this show. But there's a few things that you should know first. As many of you may know, we're not alone on this journey of podcasts and fandom. We're actually part of the Love Thy Nerd podcast network, along with two other amazing podcasts. First, we have Humans of Gaming with Drew and Chris, where they do interviews with game designers, producers, and creators, and they really get down to the details and the heart of what those creators do and why they do it. And then on the other side of things, we have Bubba, Matt, and Kate, where they bring us the Free Play podcast that covers just about every possible nerdy thing that you can think of. It's super fun. It's really funny. Kate's been doing an awesome job. She stepped in and doing some producing over there. So no joke, it's all really awesome and it's super fun, and you'll learn lots of crazy nerdy things from us. There's so much beard. I mean, seriously, if you've seen pictures of us, or you should, there's so many beards at Love Thy Nerd, and they're truly glorious. So much so that we even have a live show that usually is on Fridays that is from Bubba and Matt called Beard Bros. And they talk about two games usually each week that kind of is something interesting that they're into, or maybe they didn't think was so hot. But it gives us an opportunity to kind of dive into the world of nerd just across the spectrum. So you can check all of us out at lovethynerd.com and find out what other awesome content is there as well. Tons of articles, reviews, just tons of nerdy stuff. So now on to Oblivion. Let's get on with the show.
So who's our celebrity guest this week?
I think it's you, Hector, as seen as on Swamp Thing.
No, we can't. We can't have like Kevin Eastman and then like go to us
All right,
again.
so that's on me. But keep your ears out. We hope to be having more interviews in the near term. We hope you did enjoy our conversation with Kevin. Kevin enjoyed being with us. Hector, I think you said you're hoping to see him hopefully in the near future.
Yeah, he's at a show a couple hours from me this weekend, and I'm gonna go take him a little thank you gift basket, Michael Scott style, from the Pull List podcast, and tell him thank you.
That's going to be great.
Yeah.
So Hector's going to send all of our love and all of the joy that we had in being able to chat with him. So we're looking forward. We'll be with you in spirit, Hector. So enjoy that. So I think the most important thing for this week now is to tell the nerds what's in the news. And there's kind of lots of stuff. And we're a high production podcast, so Hector does all of our sound effects.
Which I do actually DJ, so I could step this up and bring some sound effects and stuff in here. Beep, 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 beep.
So we're here. So we're ready.
Wait, no, for real though. MC loud noises for all your DJ and
you heard it here. Hector has many personalities and many of those side hustles, but he kills all of them.
My side hustles have side hustles.
So that's what we're about here on the Pull List podcast. See, I couldn't even say that. I almost said podcast, but yeah. So lots of comic book news this week. What's some stuff that kind of jumped out at you, Hector?
Just in the news front, I was pretty impressed with the results from Umbrella Academy's initial jaunt on Netflix. That it was one of their highest streamed things, period. That it actually was in line with or surpassing Stranger Things as far as like demand and like the number of people watching. So
Yeah,
that's pretty
that's
cool.
that's not nothing.
Um,
And even for folks that weren't necessarily into the comic, it seems like it reached a fairly broad audience. Now, granted, for those that may not know, Umbrella Academy is a comic series at Dark Horse that Gerard Way has been writing, and so he was involved a bit with this show as well. So that tends to draw some folks. Some people really appreciate Gerard for his music from his days in rock and doing My Chemical Romance and all that. So his fan base is so broad, I'm not super surprised. But they took a really weird comic and they've made it pretty. It's a fascinating watch to me, and it's pretty. You can kind of track what's going on, which, to be fair, this is a super weird comic, folks. um, that I'm impressed at how it's translated so far.
and for me, I think one of the things that appealed to me as well as a lot of other, to the muggles of the world that haven't read this book, it is nice to be able to go into something without having to have a lot of prior knowledge because like even with like your standard like Spider-Man stuff or Defenders or Arrow or things like that, even if you don't read or watch it on the regular or things like that, there's this overall feeling that you're supposed to already know this stuff or some of it, or that it's cultural and that it's so long existing that it comes with a prerequisite
Mm,
knowledge. And I feel like that's not there with Umbrella Academy because it is such a fresh creation. I mean, it's old, but it's not old.
right. No,
Like
that's
it,
fair.
it doesn't come with decades of backstory that it's something still fresh enough that you can still feel like you're not missing out by jumping on the Netflix series.
And just to warn some
So
folks, this definitely will potentially have a Game of Thrones issue rather quickly as a result of that. There's only two collected editions out of two separate story arcs, and the first season is most of the first one. And the third one is in single issue comics right now, currently unfolding, called Hotel Oblivion. So it's possible, depending on their release schedule and everything, that they catch up rather quickly to real time. But like you said, you don't feel the need to. I'm hoping, and I haven't heard a lot of folks yet say, but I'm hoping it'll inspire some people to go back and read the content because it was so easy to access in this format. So it's pretty exciting.
well, that's how I am. Like I'm always looking for the next read beyond the week to week stuff, and I've definitely thought about going back and reading it. And so, yeah, I think that's well done, Netflix. Well done, Gerard Way, and everyone else. That sometimes it takes
Yep.
that
No, I think
additional thing to jumpstart it, which is I think what you hope for. It's I think what Walmart wanted with their books and what everybody else you want to do that thing that sparks readers.
no, absolutely. So Netflix, Gerard, and everyone out there, I think golf clap. Yeah, golf clap. Huh? It's great. No, it's good. Yep, it's a good open. You did mention another show in your string there, though, that unfortunately is going the other direction. If you have not heard, CW's Arrow is going to find its way into the end of their existence in season 10. That the timing seems interesting. I don't know if you've read some of this or if you've heard some of this, Hector, but it's a shortened series, and by everybody's best estimation, Arrow is going to end going into that year's CW's crossover, which is Crisis. So there's a lot of thoughts on what that might possibly mean. So we'll see. You never know. It could be the misdirect that we're all looking for, but for those that are unindoctrinated to DC's Crisis world, usually lots of people die. um, and Crisis on Infinite Earth is literally the story of.
By the way,
Yeah,
just a
go
quick
for it.
correction. That's going into season 8,
Oh,
not 10.
I'm sorry. I interneted wrong.
Um, we're currently in season 7, and the upcoming season will be season 8.
That is very good. Unfortunately for me, and some people can take my nerd card, it was probably around season 5. I just couldn't.
Oh no,
I really enjoyed Arrow
first
when it started, but it started to lose me. So this is me saying I'm kind of surprised it lasts this long, but here we are.
Well, Well, you got to look at the CW and the way they do things. They are the opposite of
That's
Fox.
true. Oh,
That Fox will pull something just out of like a nervous twitch. CW, you literally have to, go through Congress to get a show canceled over there. That they will hold on to anything. It's basically like the way, apps treat customers, that once we get you to download our app, you're not going to go through the trouble to uninstall it. And because why some of y'all still have Flappy Bird on your phone and then you've never played it. CW, once they get their hooks into a show, they will outlast things. But then again, I say that, and Constantine.
yeah.
Um,
And Constantine got the Fox treatment, so
Constantine get the Fox streaming, yeah. But I meant literally we're on season like 93 of Supernatural, so I'm not surprised that it's made it this far. But no, I'm with you. The Arrowverse really started. That's the thing, though. They are powerful in the fact they created a verse.
yep.
They are the first TV superhero facet that created their own universe and that actually sustained. And many people view the Flash as better than Arrow currently, but the Flash isn't exactly on its A game either.
No, I agree
Um,
that I feel like they
I
might
feel
have
like
gotten.
Arrow after
Yep,
season
that's
three,
fair.
Arrow after season three started going down, and then I feel like Flash season one was about as good as you can get, and then I haven't really. I do this thing in my area. There's the local CW station in Charlotte,
Oh,
North
that's right.
Carolina, has a talk show called Super Chat. It used to be Flash Chat and Arrow Chat and all these other things, but they have a thing where they bring on local nerd authorities and celebrities, air quotes, to discuss what's going on in CW's thing. And we've been doing this for a while, and it went from weekly to once a month, and we don't even know if the shows are continuing because there has been a steady decline in the opinion. But I haven't seen these shows really go swinging and be successful in a while. I think they just keep it going for the fans, and because they know eventually there's money in syndication, there's money in how they sell it out later. But I mean, Arrow started something solid. I mean, how many shows do we have? We've got
Yep.
Flash, Arrow, Legends of
Yep.
Tomorrow. I know that Black Lightning's not technically the same universe.
But
Is
isn't.
it?
They,
But
they haven't
isn't.
crossed
And
them
then we
yet,
managed
so
to.
we'll see.
They haven't crossed them yet, but we also migrated Supergirl into
Yep.
the mix. Constantine's been involved. I mean, good job on creating something. And let's be fair, Arrow preceded and outlasted the entire Netflix Marvel hero run.
Oh, we're gonna get all kinds of comments now. See what you
No,
did.
but think,
You're not, but you're
but
not
think about it.
wrong. It's
Arrow on its own started and outlasted everything Netflix did with Marvel.
no. I think I've said it from the beginning that the one thing that's pretty impressive about the CW's work and DC's work there is that DC pretty much nailed by the numbers the small screen where they struggled on the big screen. Marvel crushed the big screen, did pretty well on the small screen, but still comes with plenty of, well, I won't say disdain, but people that are, hey, this one thing was good, but not necessarily all of it. It's really fascinating to see the inverse of the two companies, and I've always kind of held that. It's like, oh, well, why do you hate DC so much? I'm like, well, I don't. It's just they're better on TV. Or why do you hate Marvel, Netflix so much? I was like, well, I don't, but their movies are great. So
Now,
yeah,
on the flip side, though, I will say Netflix's quality,
no,
not
that's
just
fair.
of, I know they've got more, whether you want to say they've got more money or not, because Netflix will literally fund things extremely well. I feel like the 3 seasons of Daredevil were better than all of
No,
Arrow.
that's definitely true.
Now I'm not going to say that's true for like season 2 of Jessica Jones or even season 3 of Luke Cage.
No,
Wait, Luke Cage get season 3 or just season 2?
Jessica Jones is going to be the one that gets a 3.
Okay. Yeah. That's the thing. Like, I didn't like the way Luke Cage season 2 ended, but, and that one season of Defenders, as bad as it was like, it was better than Legends of Tomorrow, maybe?
Sure. So let's.
But either way, we're seeing a changing of the tide of where these things are starting to wrap up
No,
and shut
I
down
think
shop.
that's absolutely true. So let's see, what else do we have in the grab bag of news? A few things. This is interesting. Speaking of television, The Orville, Fox's and Seth MacFarlane's not Star Trek The Next Generation show, but possibly the best Star Trek The Next Generation show on television right now. And I want to apologize for that. I've been really impressed by The Orville. I don't remember if we've talked about it before or not, but Dark Horse is giving them a 4-part mini. So they're going to tell 2 stories in 4 issues, so 2 issues apiece, and that's going to start in July. So if you're really enjoying The Orville on the big screen, the comic book iteration will be flying into your local comic shops about mid-July. Have you been watching The Orville? Do you enjoy that at all?
I haven't. I've been silently appreciating you appreciating it, but that's about where I'm at.
That's
in life.
fair.
Um,
If you're not sure if it's worth your time and you're not sure where Seth took the show, I expected it to be considerably more Family Guy, etc. And it's not. It's actually really fair. There is some wild stuff going on, but it literally is plain. It's why I say it's the best, the next generation on TV right now, because that is clearly Seth's love letter to Star Trek, and it's really kind of neat how he's been doing it. That it has all those feels with a handful of his typical humor, but not as drenched as I expected it to be. So it's been fun.
Speaking of love letters to your fandoms, though, did you got those for days? Did you happen to see Topher Grace's Star Wars new montage?
No.
Okay, so if you know this is I know this is a subculture of some subcultures, but Topher Grace, the dude from that '70s show, also known as the Not So Awesome Venom, that previously preceded the current Not So Awesome Venom. I like Tom Hardy's Venom though, but I digress. Topher Grace has a passion project that he frequently does, where he edits Star Wars movies to make them better.
Go on.
And he made and you can find these like on YouTube or one of his or not usually they get taken down. But what he would do is he would edit entire Star Wars trilogies into one movie or into segments and show them for screenings for actors and his friends in his home in theaters. He did one for the original, or not for the original, but for the trilogy, the prequel trilogy, episodes 1 through 3, where he edited it down into one movie, and it was considered by many to be the best version of the prequels possible. But he recently took the time to edit and master a 5-minute depiction of the entire franchise, and I'm talking including Solo and Rogue One. That is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen as a Star Wars fan. Like, it's well done, it's all encompassing. It's something I would expect to see like at Star Wars Celebration. Like, so it's really good. It's really fun. So if you do the Googles or the Facebooks or look it up, Topher Grace's new Star Wars video. It's newsworthy. It really legitimately was. If you just sit back and watch 5 minutes, you get basically the heart of all of the movies in a 5-minute window, and it's extremely.
I
well
already
done.
have it queued up, but we'll definitely try to make sure that makes it into the show notes so everyone could just bask in its glory, because that's quite possibly the best news we could have provided this week. And I mean, because just to kind of round out the rest of the news, like the rest of the news is kind of down again. That DC's up to canceling more collected editions, and we've literally brought that up, I think, for the last 3 episodes. Yeah,
3 weeks.
And
yeah,
DC's like, well, it's part of the new strategy. Which, if folks didn't hear it, Comics Pro a few weeks ago, it got leaked out that DC said they were going to cull some of their numbers, and then DC said, well, that's not quite what we meant. We're getting back to basics, and we're focusing on comics, which is comic book industry for there's probably something coming soon, because that's what led to New 52. That's what led to Rebirth. It's what led to Marvel Legacy. It's what led to Marvel Not Legacy. It's led to Marvel whatever it is we're calling reality now. So it's just weird. To the point of, it's not just the hardcover collected. There's a couple like regular trades in there that hit this week's list. So everyone's just kind of scratching their head. And Doomsday Clock number 10, we just got number 9. We're certainly going to talk about that before this episode's over. Has already slid 2 weeks again. So it's really hard when you get really great creative teams working on longer books because the schedules just slide. It's the nature of the industry. But
I can honestly say though, after reading 9, I understand why it took some
sure,
time.
there's a lot going on in Doomsday Clock, so I want it to be right. I want it to be enjoyable, and so far so good. I can wait. I think the only other thing that'll be good for folks, we can mention it again just before it happens, but Detective Comics 999 just recently came out, which means we now are in the official waiting period for Detective Comics 1000, which will drop on March 27th. So if you want to collect, I think there are over 30 something variant covers right now. I think I heard mid 30s last, but who knows, because Batman 50 had like more than that. That if you love you some variant covers and some cool stuff, there should be some neat stuff coming out towards the end of the month. And well, that's pretty much the news, my friends. So tell us what we missed or what you found interesting by commenting on this or by joining us in the Love Thy Nerd Facebook community. So now we transition to today's main event. Hector is a much better nerd than I am and was right there for the very first showing. Hector puts me to shame when it comes to getting to movies. I'm like, I'm going to see it tonight. Hector's like, bruh. Some weeks it's like, bruh, I got 2 viewings in before you got there. And it's like, okay, cool. I got it. I am not worthy. I am not worthy. But Hector made it to Captain Marvel, and I wanted to give him a little bit of time this week to tell us his initial thoughts. No spoilers. We're going to be fair. But Hector, so what'd you think right off the top?
My first statement, and I just made a little graphic of it. My first statement when I watched it coming out, and keep in mind I have 3 daughters that are, as this actually was a comment in the LTN community was, my hype train runs on my daughter's tracks. So like when my three daughters are excited, it's hard to get me unexcited about something. So I had 3 girls that watched this thing and had a flipping blast. But my first thought and statement when watched it was like, I don't know how you make a better Marvel movie than that.
That's a pretty high bar, because when I saw you post that, I was like, whoa. So
yeah, because you know me, like I'm a DC fanboy at heart. So like to just say Marvel killed it, they killed it. And I'll give you my 2 negatives up front. My only 2 negatives that I felt. Here's the first: Skrull's battle cry sounds like Chewbacca. Like it's straight. Like I mean, it's like
Disney. Wow.
when the Skrulls get angry. Like in one of the early scenes in the movie, it straight up sounded like Chewbacca, and I couldn't deal with that. I was giggling. My 5-year-old's like, "Why does he sound like Chewbacca, Dad?" I'm like, "I don't know, baby." That happened.
I'm just gonna have Chewbacca in my head now for the rest of the evening. Thank you for that.
But then the other thing is like there were some times the buddy cop comedic vibe between Fury and Marvel felt a little unauthentic, fake. I don't know. Whereas like they're laughing together. I'm like, I don't think this is that funny. But whatever. I mean, if those are the only complaints in it, there's that.
That's pretty good. But could you chalk it up too? Because this is also supposed to be the most '90s movie that ever did '90s. So, do you think maybe that negative was just a force of maybe the trope of really terrible '90s buddy cop stuff, or do you think it was just it fell flat?
I could say it could be a solid mix of both, because they definitely were going for some 90s vibe. They definitely, and I hadn't put that thought together, but they were definitely going for some 90s vibe. And they succeeded in that. There was a lot that felt like a good 90s movie.
Yes, so that makes me...
I'll take that.
That makes me happy, especially since I saw the 1990s like GeoCity website they pushed out for promotion. Because I was like, yeah, your marketing is on point for this. I mean, they hit the blockbuster in the trailer and stuff. My body is ready for this movie.
Now, the one thing that, almost anybody I've heard that's watched it said is that the soundtrack is like the best thing, because it is straight up. It's what I was listening to in high school, which is what I don't think why it didn't necessarily impress me. Probably because I'm still listening to that stuff. So the fact that it's nostalgic, I'm like, you're insulting me. Shut up.
This isn't classic rock. What are you telling me?
This isn't classic rock. These things are still in my mixtapes. But I mean, when you go from Nirvana to No Doubt to TLC to like, I mean, it's legitimately the best '90s mixtape you could pick up.
Wow.
Which, but by the way, I'm going to go ahead and buy that while we're talking.
Click.
Amazon over here. But no, the soundtrack was fantastic. The one thought that I had going into this, that I knew I was going to feel this way when I came out of it, was it's what Green Lantern should have been.
Without the green terrible CGI, right?
Yeah, yeah. But like I said, it's what it
Okay,
should have
that's
been.
noted.
Like this movie is what I think the entire world needed Green Lantern to be. And I personally believe if Green Lantern could have pulled this movie off, the DCEU would have started a long time ago and be in a better place. But obviously they didn't and couldn't pull that off. So that didn't
Also,
happen.
if they did, we
Um,
probably didn't get Deadpool in the way we did. So, I think I'm okay.
Yes. Which, by the way, if I back to news for a second, I don't know if you saw it. Obviously, this is the internet and it could be wrong, but that I read a statement that Fox is planning to recast everyone, or not Fox. Disney is planning to recast everyone except Deadpool,
Interesting.
so that Ryan Reynolds will survive the Thanos snap of Disney's budget. So
That
that's a thing.
that was good. I
Obviously,
enjoyed that
internet.
Deadpool interlude. Very good. Very good.
There you go. Moving on. But no, it was the best. It was the best Green Lantern movie I'd ever seen. In the fact they nailed the whole intergalactic patrol vibe, the whole space cop deal. I mean, that's what I wanted a Green Lantern movie to be. That's what I wanted to be a Green Lantern movie to be before I knew it. I didn't know I wanted this to be the right Green Lantern movie until I saw this, and then I'm like, oh, well, that's what that should have been. So that was great. I mean, the supporting cast was really strong. There is definitely a lot of throwbacks in there for long term Marvel fans. If you're a Guardians fan, this was great. Just because you get to see a lot of Guardians stuff in context. This makes Guardians of the Galaxy much more understandable and relatable when you're dealing with the Kree and things with Ronan the Accuser. It makes a lot more sense now, because if you didn't have a solid knowledge base of the Kree or Ronan when you watched Guardians and you just thought he was a generic Steppenwolf big bad, then now you're like, oh, context.
A ton of context.
A ton of context. So that's the thing, that it gives you a lot of context with it. You get to see characters, in a way that you might not have before. It really sets up what we get in Avengers. I will say this, without spoilers, there are 2 post-credit scenes.
Noise.
So obviously, I mean, if you're 11 years deep in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and you're leaving before the credits, stop. Just stop. Don't do that. I am pretty angry with my local movie theater. I try and go to my local movie theater, which is a small town, and it's a not quality theater. It's it's run down and fallen apart in a lot of ways, but I try and support my local town. They cut the movie off.
What?
Before the credits.
Did anybody lose their flipping mind like in the moment?
I did, and literally because there's only like 2 employees, they just switched the projector off and started sweeping. And
What?
and so like literally you had people immediately pull out their phones and start searching for post-credit scenes, and I had some folks just tell me what the second one was. But anyway, yeah, there are important things, and I'll say this: Stan Lee's cameo in this one, which for the record, there's a Stan Lee cameo. It's a Marvel movie. I don't think that's a spoiler. Stan Lee's cameo is not only beautiful and perfect, it breaks the fourth wall. It breaks the fourth wall, and that makes me really happy. So that made yeah, I had warm fuzzies with Stan's cameo. It's not like Spider-Verse that made me want to cry. This is like, haha, gotcha. It was good. So overall, I really enjoyed it. I thought, a lot of the initial concern was that Brie didn't have a lot of expression. There were times she was very, very expressive, and she was very funny in a lot of what she did. And I don't know about you, but maybe it's just me. When I look at Brie Larson as Captain Marvel, especially with her hairstyling, I see a young Leslie Nope. Um,
Maybe a
and
little bit. I see where you're coming from on that one.
I mean, like she reminds me of a young Leslie Nope from Parks and Recreation. So there are a lot of times, especially when she's delivering something comedic, that I'm seeing Leslie Nope in a superhero outfit, and that's in no way a negative statement
No,
because love me some Leslie,
no, that's
but
great.
like that's just it made me giggle a little bit more because she reminded me. So her comedic delivery is very Leslie Nope.
Well, I think the
So
thing that a lot of people are probably, I mean, obviously, we're not going to camp out here because the internet's doing it for us, and we want to be on the other side of this conversation. That so many folks have been so negative about Brie being chosen and everything, but even from the trailers that I've seen so far, I'm like, right. But if you know anything about Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers is a complicated person, just regardless of her really complicated origin story. That as that military officer, she was always shown and depicted in comics as being, straight laced, straight edge. So I kind of expect the comedy to be slightly awkward, but it's part of who that person is. So I mean, fine. Haters gonna hate, but I'm glad to hear that the movie definitely delivered above and beyond it. Yeah, at least your expectations, and I know many others. There's been a ton of positive so far. So I'm looking forward. I haven't done IMAX in forever, and I sprung for it this time. And so my wife,
I think it's a
yeah,
worthy
no,
investment.
my wife is Captain Marvel is her jam. So she's like,
Didn't she make like
oh
an
yeah,
outfit
she
for?
has Captain Marvel that she did from a few years ago, and she's still figuring out ways to upgrade it. And she does iterations, so that's her cosplay nerddom. But yeah, like an anniversary present a few years ago is I have an Avenging Spider-Man number 9.8 CGC, certified. That I got it before that book went crazy bonkers because that's Carol when she first takes up the mantle as Captain Marvel. And for folks that are really interested in knowing the background of this character, which is super complicated and we didn't get into today, there is a great article in the LTN community, which we'll also drop in the show notes for this, on the full history of Captain Marvel, including all the way back to that other guy named Captain Marvel. And no, not the one in the Marvel universe, but that dude named Shazam. So comics are complicated, right? So
Exactly.
I'm really happy to hear that it has the Hector stamp of approval, and even more so that it has the Hector horde of approval. That your girls really thought it was amazing. Like mind blown through the whole thing. Are they still bouncing off the walls?
Well, like tonight, I've got a event that I have to go to, and they wanted to know if their babysitter can take them to go watch it again. So I mean,
Yep.
they're on that level. So I'd say so.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds about right. So, anything else that we absolutely need to know about Captain Marvel if we haven't made it out? Why do we have to see this movie, Hector?
Personally, for me, the reason I think I enjoyed it so much is because, I mean, it's very much similar to what we talked about with Umbrella Academy, is that while she is a long-standing character, for most of my life, Carol Danvers was just the person Rogue stole her powers from.
Yep.
Like literally growing up with X-Men the animated series, and up until the last decade, Carol didn't carry a lot of weight in the MCU, and so I don't have 38 years of backlog stories in my mind about this, and so like it was just really fresh to just go in and experience it, and to see, like, I think it's here's the best way to say it. For the last 10 years, we've been watching everything else build up and stack on top of each other. Like, you needed the back
Yep.
knowledge of Iron Man and Hulk and Avengers. You needed all the back knowledge. It was nice to be able to go in and experience this without having to have a lot of knowledge. Like, so honestly, I think in a lot of ways, this would be a dope jumping on point for someone who hasn't watched 11 years worth of Marvel movies.
That's that's awesome,
And
especially given that it's we kind of know that it's that quasi setting up point for probably what comes after. the next Avengers movie. There's been those rumors that these.
Yeah, it's the Kickstarter phase 4. I get that,
Yep,
and that was honestly my thought. By the time you make it to the first post credit scene, I'm like, I'd be okay with this being the next phase.
that's
Like,
awesome.
if this is where the next phase of Marvel goes, I'm good.
You heard it here first. So check out Captain Marvel if you haven't. I will have some thoughts probably by next episode, and so looking forward to that. So man, Captain Marvel. So let's jump to one of our favorite parts of the show then, and that's the comics we've been reading. We've been talking about lots of comics that have done stuff on the small screen, the big screen. So we kind of been all over this week, but that's awesome because that's the beauty of comics. We got 2 weeks behind us. A fair number of comics came out in that time period, some big hitter stuff. So, Hector, what did you pull over the last 2 weeks?
All right, so some big ones that I pulled would be first off, want to hit Detective Comics 999. Finished up a story arc that we've been seeing, and just it's the curtain bow before the issue 1000, and it's one of these stories that I didn't love because of the ending, just because I feel like it was like 6 issues of work for no outcome.
Mm.
And just say that without throwing too many spoilers in case you do pick up the arc. But it's just one of those things. If I'm reading something and it doesn't play any effect into the character or the direction of the story, I feel a little bit wrong. So I mean, it was my same complaint with the Marvel Knights thing. The recent Marvel Knights thing is just like, okay, cool, good talk. This did or didn't happen, whatever. So that was a thing for me. I've really enjoyed the Price, the 4-issue crossover with Batman and the
It's been
Flash.
so good.
It's been so good, and I think that's the thing is like I've not seen anyone on the hero front cross swords with Batman emotionally or verbally the way that I've seen Flash do it. And where I feel like this is a good dialogue. Where with Tom King, he has a good way of endearing stories with like Superman and Wonder Woman and things like that, where I've seen him do a lot of stuff. This one where I feel like he cuts deep. Where Tom King is a love letter to Batman, this has been a critical analysis of who Batman is, and it's done really well over this story. I mean, and obviously, it's a critical analysis of Flash as well, but I feel like there's a little more Flash love and a little more Batman criticism here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's me with that. That's been really good. We got some more Firefly in.
Yeah,
And,
we did. How'd you feel about that? Feels like we're kind of wrapping up that first arc, or probably one more issue.
It feels like we're kind of wrapping up the first arc or issue, but I think my initial praise and my initial love for this series was the fact that it felt like Firefly again, and I feel like we're losing that.
It did feel a little disjointed the last 2 issues. I would tend to agree. There were a few moments that I'm like, yep, right there. Like some of the banter with Wash in this issue, I was like, yep, that feels right. Jane being
There's
a
some
hothead.
good book and
Yeah,
Jane
no,
stuff.
but I kind of agree. I was like, but what are we doing? Don't let me down, Greg. Don't let me down. We're really bring us back.
And you said the last 2 issues. We're only on
Right.
4 issues, so literally, you're saying half the story has felt
Don't
disjointed.
make me feel bad about this any more than I already do.
I picked up Ronin Island, also
What
from
did
Greg.
you think? I picked that up as well because I thought it looked really cool.
I like ninjas. It looked like Kubo. I'm down. It's it's like an apocalyptic sort of zombie story in not feudal Japan, but it felt like it. Like early Japan era. You've got the privileged regal boy versus the slum girl, and they're both training to be samurai, and all of a sudden there's an apocalypse. Ta-da! I enjoyed it. I will pick issue 2 up. I will see how it goes, but that was solid. I did enjoy that. Unnatural it finished its second arc, and just like the beauty of what they've done with that story. Again, Unnatural is a very mature book, and the content is sketch. So be warned before you just go running and picking that up. But that's what the thing I like about the story she's telling and what she's writing is that every time you think you're at a place where you know what's going on or it's safe to say, okay, this is where we're at, they just ratchet it up a notch and they just crank it up and it just gets a little more powerful and a little more intense. So that's been fun. But then again, there are still people that look at the art, because here's the thing, the art can be a bit
Yep.
misleading. And as one of my cosplay friends says, it just looks like furry porn. And
Unfortunately, in the
it,
industry, that's kind of been the tongue-in-cheek joke over this book, which, like we've said, because it is a mature book, and a lot of the way it was initially marketed would have led you to believe that, which is why I almost didn't read it at all.
yeah,
And that's why you've heard Hector and I say there's an interesting and pretty amazing story here, but it is bathed in adult content, but it actually becomes almost less so the more we're getting to wrapping up
but
the story, which is good.
the hard part is the marketing and the covers still sell
Yep.
it that way.
And especially if you see all the variant that a bunch of people
Variants,
are
yeah,
commissioning variants that pretty much feel that. So
yeah. And I just feel that's counterproductive to what they're doing. Domino just dropped a new book, and I love me some Gail Simone Domino.
I was excited to see
Um,
that Gail was going to be writing that, because at first I was like, oh no, we're already spinning out of this. What random writer team did they throw at this? So I'm glad that Gail is writing that as well. But yeah, it hit me because I didn't pick it up and I'm curious.
Basically, the premise for Domino's first arc was that it was her and her two best friends, being gal pals and fighting crime, sort of, and being mercenaries. And it was honestly one of the most endearing and sweet and beautiful and funny books I picked up. I really have a lot of love for the first run of Gail Simone's Domino. Now it's turning into a full squad book, like a full Avengers level
Right.
team of female heroes and anti-heroes. Domino, Diamondback, and her Inez, her cowgirl homie, have now picked up a Wakandan outcast, like a royal Wakandan outcast, who is joining their team, who has like a whole bear thing going on. We pick up a Russian, maybe Russian, no, Korean, a Korean spy lady. I want to say her name was Silver Fox, and I don't know if she's in a pre-existing character. I didn't research her. I just know this was the first time I remember seeing her. But then the big addition to the team is that Black Widow is on the team now.
Interesting.
And that's really fun. And you also get Nina/Domino geeking out over the fact that Black Canary is on her team. And she thought Black Canary was hiring her to do a job, and she's like, "No, I want on your team." And that was fun. It was a good first outing. I miss some of the intimacy of just the little 3-girl clique, but I think this is going to play out to be a good book. And we're also getting Immortal Hulk coming off of its first 13 issues. And for me, that first 13 issues of Hulk, I would buy that junk in hardcover and put it on my coffee table because it was beautiful and it was really well told. It had a lot of spiritual aspects to it, and it was really encouraging. This is the beginning of a new arc, and I'm not as sold on this arc as I was on the previous, but I'm also not quitting it. So that's me.
Cool.
Plus, heroes. We can talk about that.
What else you got?
What
All
about
right.
you?
Well,
Well, there's heroes in
right.
crisis
So
too.
I'll fill in
But I'll let you
some
kick
of the gaps here as we find our way into the end of episode 11 here. So for me this week, I did pick up the Star Wars Vader Dark Visions #1 because it said Star Wars and Darth Vader on the cover, and they're just doing great. It's another one shot, which kind of bummed me out. That I'm glad that they're telling these little pieces of stories that are kind of scattered throughout all of the continuity they have to pull from, but I'm ready for more story. It was still pretty fun. It was interesting. So if you've been following Star Wars and Vader and all that good stuff, you definitely should at least give it a look to see what they did there, because it was interesting. It didn't end up in a place that I fully expected. It was as complicated as the character that Darth Vader is himself. I also finished off Cemetery Beach, which is a Warren Ellis book that's been going on. It was only a 7-part. It says the end, but they technically left it in a spot that story could continue. So I'll be curious to see if that gets picked up to keep telling the story, or if this is just Warren Ellis's way of admitting it's going to be another 7 years until he finishes the backside of this. Because for anyone who's a fan of Warren Ellis, they should be used to by now. He kicks off really great stories, tells crazy sci-fi stories that are super awesome in my mind. They can be hyper violent, but he's got that good wit balance with very good storytelling. I'm still waiting for part 3 of Trees, and that's more than 5 years now, I feel like. There's other stories he's written.
What?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Jeez.
it's kind of a Warren Ellis thing. Thankfully, the Wildstorm has kept him on track, but I think that was always on rails to be the 24 issues and then see. So there's that. But Cemetery Beach was really fun. It's really difficult to describe, but it is a sci-fi romp that is it's visually stunning. There's almost more visual storytelling than narrative, which I really enjoy when a comic does that well. The other book I picked up, I mentioned this last time, is Oberon, Aftershock book. It's a fantasy book that's kind of going on. I expected a little more pickup on the background of what this story was telling me after issue 1. So issue 3 is going to be my deciding point, I think, for that story. Die number 4 came out in the last 2 weeks, and Die just continues to be visually stunning. And it's interesting to be in the middle of a D&D story where there's the fantasy world aspect, but this one's also doing the fact that these people are real people that are stuck in a fantasy world. So this issue actually, did you read this one yet? Die number 4?
No,
so
I didn't.
number 4 starts crossing the 2 worlds as part of them being stuck and figuring out how they get out. So I won't spoil beyond that, but they kind of give us a little background of each of the party members again, but it's a cross of real world information with their fantasy world, and it's kind of mind bending, but this story is still really cool with what they're doing in terms of that. And then, of course, for me, I'm reading Daredevil. So I mentioned that the end of Daredevil 1 under Chip Zdarsky ended in a bonkers place. Issue 2 ended in an equally bonkers place, but for different reasons. I will not spoil either of these issues at this point, because both of the endings were kind of shocking in and of themselves. But I'm really excited that this Daredevil story is a great continuation of what Sewell did. And all of that stuff still matters, and it very clearly matters because they're pulling it forward. So just because it says number 1 and number 2, I'm excited that this story, it started with a new team, but we're definitely still telling the same story. But the stakes are almost 1,000% higher than they were even 3 issues ago. So continue to love me some Daredevil, and they're going to some really interesting places. So
I hate you saying this because I'm already seeing myself going back to buy it because I haven't read these yet. And now I feel like I'm going to. So stop.
You're welcome.
Oh, one quick note before you hit anything else. I really enjoyed the Domino one thing in Domino this week. This is the first time, at least in Gail's run, where she specifically calls herself a believer.
Oh, interesting.
Like actual God believer. She has a question like, do you think God is responsible for this? Someone says they're an atheist, and she has a thought bubble. Well, being the fact that I'm a believer, this stings a little bit. Like, she straight up refers to herself as a believer. I was like, yay!
Oh,
okay,
that's pretty wild.
Go on. Jesus nerd card right there got excited for me.
Right? So good. So the last 2, and we don't have a lot of time to camp out here, but Doomsday Clock number 9 and Heroes in Crisis 6. So that's right. DC was like, here, we're going to give you 2 of the heaviest events that are going on right now in 2 weeks back to back. And Doomsday Clock was just bonkers.
Doomsday Clock was literally everything it needed to be.
That's fair.
With the amount of wait time that we've had and the slow progression. Because it feels like Marionette and the Mime were years ago. Years. Like, I feel like that was a lifetime ago. And we're just now getting to where we're at. So, like, it feels like we're finally hitting something.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's pretty amazing. So it's been great.
If you've been on the fence about Doomsday Clock and you've made it this far, I promise, pick up this issue and you'll keep going.
Yeah, no,
But it's very gratifying all across the board of what it is and what it's doing. So
very much so. So we've been talking ad nauseum about Doomsday Clock. It's worth it. The entire fate of the DC universe does rest somewhere in there and in Heroes in Crisis, which is kind of mind bending. So Heroes in Crisis 6. Where are they taking us,
I
Hector?
feel, I feel like we're getting somewhere, but like one of the solicits or things I heard was that in this past issue we were going to see who the actual killer was. I'm correct in saying that, right?
I don't know if it was
Like,
6. I think it ends at 9, right? I
yeah.
forget. It's soon.
I saw a solicit or a post or something that said we would find out the actual killer in issue 6, if I'm remembering that correctly.
Nope.
And if that's the case,
It's
then
number 8.
number 8.
So
Okay, there we
just
go.
before the end.
So we're still seeing some more plot twists and turns and stuff like that, but you get a lot of good Harley and Ivy time in this, and for those of you who are fans or not fans of the Harley Joker relationship and how toxic and destructive it can be, this is a good story for you. Just because you know, at Sanctuary, you have the ability to live out and play through your drama and work through your issues. And Harley and Ivy do that in a very entertaining and constructive way. So there was a lot with that really stood out.
No, this
What about for you? What hit
I
with you
think
with
that
that?
was part of it as well. But it also comes back to the theory that kind of been floating in Heroes of I'm still having difficulty, except for when we are with Batman, Flash, or Superman, that any of what we've been shown is real. In terms of stuff when characters are doing things, because of that ability to use that like danger room ability of Sanctuary. I they've been going back and forth a ton, and I think that's going to be part of the reveal at the end of this is we're going to finally find out whose story we haven't been seeing or whose story was actually real in the middle of all of it. So I think that's the thing, because they did it again of going back and forth with 2 or 3 different characters for 6. And kudos to them for also pulling pretty deep in their catalog of folks that we follow. But yeah, so I still think there's something to be said for the whole mask thing, and whether they're facing their fears or not is still going to be a big thing that unfolds in 8 and 9 as this thing wraps up. And then,
Well,
yeah,
just help me with just a continuity thing real quick. Outside of Wally and Roy, have we seen any concrete evidence of deaths being confirmed in outside books?
I'm not sure. Off the top of my head, no. But
Because I don't all these other people that
right.
have passed, I haven't heard any like mention of them.
A lot of them are
Like
deep cut characters that aren't in current continuity, so that's where they're in continuity, but they don't have their own book. So that's part of it. But I'm trying to think if there's someone they've
but
quote unquote mentioned, but hasn't.
but I'm thinking of like Ivy. Why haven't we seen a Harley issue dealing with Ivy's loss?
Because part of it is because we know that's coming, but it hasn't been confirmed in context. So maybe there's still time on that one.
Okay. I didn't know if that was
Because
coming.
I think number 8 in Heroes in Crisis is going to be where we finally see where we know that she's been killed. So that
Okay.
means in theory we have a month or 2 to see if that spills over or not. So I think
All
that's
right.
part of it at least, but it's a very valid point is we can do the super deep dive and figure out who's been mentioned and who hasn't. But otherwise I think you're right.
Because that could mean what happened at Sanctuary isn't as big as what we thought.
That's true. And that's why
That
I'm
it
still playing.
could just be Roy
Right.
and
It's
Wally.
why I'm still playing with that whole thing. And the fact that it played into the price so much and most of the Flash mainline as well. I'm going to throw out a real crazy idea that what if the whole thing is in Barry Allen's Sanctuary visit? Like incepting the inception. because I just kind of had that thought.
Wait for it. Keanu, whoa.
Because just seeing how the price ended, it kind of took me back for a minute that Barry's the one that is going through a lot of mental anguish right now. So, thank you, Tom King, for keeping us guessing and writing a truly interesting interweaving story. I know a lot of folks are kind of complaining for some reason about this, but I've been thoroughly enjoying it. And so that's what we've read. And as we've said before, we're trying out this new thing. The folks in the Love Thy Nerd community, every Wednesday on New Comic Book Day, we do a post and we ask folks, what are you guys reading that we're not reading? And for folks that put in, that they get to be mentioned on this super awesome podcast. And for this week, I want to thank Trey Gillen. Trey was actually one of my customers at Ultimate, and he's followed along to join us in the community. He's a super awesome dude, and I know he's listening. So I hope I didn't destroy your last name because I'm terrible with names, Trey. So I beg forgiveness now. But Trey has reminded us that the joy of Marvel and all of the Star Wars properties are pretty great. And he's right. And because of that, my wallet doesn't allow me to buy all those wonderful Star Wars things. And sure, I mentioned the Vader book this week, but Trey just reminds us that the mainline Star Wars has been really great. And it's something that I keep meaning to get back to, but I think he's right. I remember reading through most of the first 3 or 4 arcs of Star Wars when they relaunched under the Marvel banner. And it's all continuity, so it's all technically important in some way in the Star Wars universe, which I get it. Some Star Wars fans are not happy with that, but that's Star Wars and that's Marvel and that's Disney. So thanks, Trey, for reminding us that Star Wars is still super awesome because, well, it is. And so take that opportunity to jump in on an arc or to go all the way back to the beginning and see where Star Wars kind of began since Marvel took back that property. And so, folks, that's episode 11. It's officially in the can. We hope you've enjoyed getting to hear comic books news and just the download of data that Hector had for us to talk this week. So from your friendly neighborhood comic geeks here at Love Thy Nerd, just don't forget, comics are awesome. There's so many different stories out there being told. And don't forget to like and subscribe this podcast. We'd like to share with more nerds out there and more comic book folks come and join in the community that we have here and in the ability to talk comics and enjoy it with one another. And also, don't forget that you can actually join in the conversation each and every day. Hector and I, we hang out in the Love Thy Nerd Facebook community, and you can too. All you have to do is jump over to that book of faces and type in Love Thy Nerd community, and it should pop up. You click join. It's super easy, and that's all you got to do. But Hector and I thank each and every one of you for listening each and every week. We've been really blessed to be able to do this, and we're excited. We got to interview Kevin Eastman last time, so if you didn't hear that, go back and listen to episode 10. It was awesome, and we hope to bring you more of that type of content. But most importantly, kids, don't forget this. It's super important. Read more comics.
Read more comics.
You've been listening to the Pull List Podcast with Chris Poirier and Hector Mirai, part of the Love Thy Nerd Podcast Network. Be sure to rate and review the show and share on all the social media.
All 7 continents, the game of